My name is Rebecca Hartley. I am 35 years old. For as long as I can remember, I have been the second child, the one who always came second, the one who was always an afterthought, the one who was always compared to my older sister Clarissa and always found wanting. Clarissa is perfect. She always has been. She got straight A's in school, went to an Ivy League university, married a wealthy doctor and gave my parents 2 perfect grandchildren. She has a beautiful house in the suburbs, a successful career as a corporate attorney, and a life that looks like it belongs on the cover of a magazine. She is everything my parents ever wanted, and I am everything they never wanted. I was the one who struggled in school, the one who couldn't sit still, couldn't focus, couldn't fit into the mold they had created for me. I was the one who chose a career in social work instead of corporate law, who lived in a modest apartment instead of a gated community, who dated men my parents deemed beneath me. Every choice I made was a disappointment. Every decision was a battle. Every visit home was an exercise in endurance. And now I was 35 years old. I had spent 3.5 decades trying to earn my mother's love, 3.5 decades of hoping that she would one day see me, really see me, and decide that I was enough. 3.5 decades of being the second child, the one who always came second. 3.5 decades of watching my sister get everything she ever wanted while I scraped together scraps of attention. 3.5 decades of feeling like I was invisible, like I didn't matter, like I was just a footnote in my own family's story. I had planned my birthday dinner for weeks. It was a milestone birthday after all, 35. I had finally found a man who loved me for who I was, a kind, patient man named Marcus who didn't compare me to my sister. He was a high school history teacher, not a doctor or a lawyer, but he had a heart of gold and a way of looking at me that made me feel like I was the only person in the room. He saw me. He really saw me. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was enough. I had built a career that I was proud of, helping families in crisis through my work at a community outreach program. I had created a life that was my own, free from the weight of my parents' expectations. I had a small but cozy apartment that I had decorated with my own hands. I had a garden on my tiny balcony where I grew herbs and tomatoes. I had a cat named Jasper who greeted me at the door every night. I had a life that was mine, and I was proud of it. I wanted to celebrate. I wanted to share my happiness with the people I loved. I wanted to believe foolishly that this time would be different. I wanted to believe that my mother would finally see me. I wanted to believe that my sister would finally treat me like an equal. I wanted to believe that my father would finally stand up for me. So I made a reservation at a small, intimate restaurant in the city. It was a place I had discovered with Marcus, a cozy Italian spot with candlelight and checkered tablecloths. The food was simple but delicious, and the owner, a sweet old man named Enzo, always greeted us like family. I invited my mother, my father, my sister, and my brother-in-law. I also invited Marcus, my best friend Jenna, and a few close colleagues from work, 12 people in total. I wanted it to be intimate, meaningful, and full of love. I spent the week before the dinner cooking, cleaning, and preparing. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted my mother to see that I was happy, that I had built a life I was proud of, that I didn't need her approval to be happy. I wanted her to see me, really see me, and finally accept me for who I was. I wanted the mother I had always dreamed of, the one who would show up for me the way she showed up for my sister. I wanted the father who would finally say, "I'm proud of you, Rebecca." I wanted the sister who would finally say, "I'm sorry for all the years I made you feel small." I cleaned my apartment from top to bottom. I bought fresh flowers for the table. I made a playlist of my favorite songs. I picked out the perfect dress, a deep emerald green that made me feel beautiful and confident. I had my hair done. I had my makeup done. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who was finally ready to be seen. A woman who was finally ready to claim her place in the world. The night of the dinner arrived. I arrived at the restaurant early, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Enzo greeted me with a warm hug and a kiss on both cheeks. "Rebecca, my dear, you look beautiful tonight. Happy birthday." He had set up a long table in the back, decorated with candles and flowers. It was perfect. I sat down and waited. 7 o'clock came and went. 7:30, 8 o'clock. The table was set for 12. Marcus was there holding my hand under the table. My best friend Jenna was there looking concerned but trying to stay positive. 2 of my colleagues were there chatting politely, but my parents weren't there. My sister wasn't there. I tried to call my mother. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried my father, same thing. I texted them both, no response. The waitress came by twice asking if we were ready to order. I told her to give us a few more minutes. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. I felt the familiar weight of disappointment settling on my shoulders like a lead blanket. At 8:30 my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. "We had more important plans, sweetie, your sister needed us. We'll celebrate another time. Happy birthday." I read the text 3 times. Each time the words seemed to rearrange themselves as if there was some other interpretation. But there wasn't. My mother had chosen my sister over me. Again, on my 35th birthday. She had sent a text message typed on a phone to tell me she wasn't coming. She didn't even have the decency to call. She didn't even have the decency to pretend she was sorry. I sat there staring at the phone, feeling the familiar weight of being second best. The familiar ache of being overlooked. The familiar sting of being an afterthought. I had spent my whole life trying to earn my mother's love, and she had just proven once again that I would never be enough. I would never be as important as my sister. I would never be the one she chose. Marcus reached across the table and took my hand. "Rebecca," he said softly, "what's wrong?" I showed him the text. He read it and his jaw tightened. His eyes darkened with anger. "I'm so sorry," he said. "You don't deserve this. You deserve so much better than this." Jenna leaned over and read the text over my shoulder. She let out a sharp breath. "Rebecca, this is not okay. This is not okay at all. You need to say something. You need to stop letting them treat you like this." I didn't cry. I was too angry to cry. I was too hurt to cry. I just sat there staring at the phone, feeling something inside me break. Something that had been holding me together for years. Something that had made me believe that my mother would eventually come around, that she would eventually see me, that she would eventually love me the way I needed to be loved. That something shattered into 1,000 pieces. Then I did something I had never done before. I opened the family group chat. There were 15 people in it. My mother, my father, my sister, my brother-in-law, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. Everyone who had ever made me feel like I was invisible. I typed a single sentence. "She chose my sister over me on my 35th birthday. She didn't even call. She texted." And then I attached the screenshot of my mother's text message. I pressed send. The group chat went quiet for a few minutes, then it exploded. My Aunt Carol was the first to respond. "Rebecca, what happened? Are you okay?" My cousin Mark wrote, "That's not right, I'm so sorry." My Uncle David said, "This is unacceptable. Your mother needs to explain herself." And then my mother responded, "Rebecca, this is not the place for this. We'll talk about it later." I replied, "There's nothing to talk about, Mom. You made your choice. You always make your choice. I'm just done pretending it doesn't hurt." The chat went quiet again. I could imagine my mother staring at her phone, fuming. I could imagine my sister reading the messages, feeling guilty. I could imagine my father shaking his head, wishing he had done something differently. For the first time in my life I had spoken up. I had told the truth, and it felt terrifying and liberating all at once. I had finally stopped being invisible. I had finally stopped pretending that their neglect didn't hurt. I had finally stopped waiting for them to see me. I put my phone down and looked at the people who had actually shown up. Marcus, my rock, Jenna, my ride or die, my 2 colleagues who barely knew me but had still come to celebrate. I looked at the empty chairs where my parents and sister should have been sitting. And then I made a decision. I was not going to let them ruin my birthday. I was not going to let them make me feel small. I was not going to let them steal my joy. I raised my glass. To the people who actually showed up, I said, "Thank you for being here, thank you for seeing me, thank you for loving me. This is going to be the best birthday dinner I've ever had because I'm surrounded by people who actually care." Marcus raised his glass. To Rebecca, the strongest, kindest, most incredible woman I know. Jenna raised hers. To the woman who finally stopped being invisible. My colleagues raised theirs. To Rebecca. We ate and drank and laughed. We told stories. We made memories. And I realized, sitting there in that candlelit restaurant with people who actually loved me, that I didn't need my mother's approval. I didn't need my sister's validation. I didn't need my father's support. I had built a family of my own, and that was enough. The next morning I woke up to a barrage of messages. My Aunt Carol had called me 3 times. My cousin Mark had sent a long, supportive text. My Uncle David had sent a message saying he was proud of me for speaking up. And my mother had sent a single, cold message. "We need to talk, call me." I ignored it. I wasn't ready to talk. I wasn't ready to hear her excuses. I wasn't ready to be gaslit into believing that I was overreacting, that I was being dramatic, that I was the one in the wrong. I knew that conversation would be filled with the same old patterns, her minimizing my feelings, her blaming me for being too sensitive, her making herself the victim. I wasn't going to play that game anymore. I spent the day with Marcus. We went for a walk in the park. The leaves were turning golden and red and the air was crisp and cool. We had lunch at a small cafe. We talked about the future, about our plans, about the life we were building together. He made me feel seen. He made me feel valued. He made me feel like I was enough. He listened to me talk about my mother without interrupting, without making excuses for her, without telling me to just let it go. That evening my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message. "Rebecca, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand. You're being dramatic. You're embarrassing the family. Call me back." I didn't call back. The next few weeks were strange. My mother didn't call again. My sister didn't reach out. My father sent a single text message that said, "I'm sorry, sweetheart, I should have been there, I love you." It was the first time in years that my father had reached out to me without my mother's prompting. It was a small gesture, but it meant more than he probably realized. It was the first time he had ever acknowledged that he had let me down. I started going to therapy. I started talking about my childhood, about the years of feeling invisible, about the constant comparisons to my sister. I started learning to set boundaries. I started learning to prioritize my own needs. I started learning that I didn't need my mother's approval to be happy. I started learning that I was worthy of love, even if my mother couldn't see it. My therapist, Dr. Linda Chen, was a kind, patient woman who helped me see things I had never been able to see before. She helped me understand that my mother's favoritism was not my fault. It was not because I was unlovable. It was because my mother had her own issues, her own wounds, her own insecurities. She had been raised by a mother who favored her sister, and she had simply repeated the pattern. It didn't excuse her behavior, but it helped me understand it. I also started journaling. I wrote down all the things I had never been able to say out loud. I wrote about the years of feeling invisible. I wrote about the birthday parties my parents missed. I wrote about the school plays they never showed up to. I wrote about the times my sister got everything and I got nothing. I wrote until my hand cramped and my eyes burned, and then I kept writing. Months passed, my mother and I didn't speak. My sister and I didn't speak. The silence was strange, but it was also peaceful. For the first time in my life, I wasn't constantly seeking their approval. I wasn't constantly trying to earn their love. I was just living my life. I was building a life that was my own, free from the weight of their expectations. I started volunteering at a local women's shelter. I helped women who had been abused, abandoned, and forgotten. I listened to their stories and I saw myself in them. I saw the same pain, the same longing, the same desperate hope that someone would finally see them. I helped them find resources, find jobs, find homes. I helped them rebuild their lives, and in helping them I started to rebuild my own. I also started spending more time with Marcus's family. His mother, a warm, generous woman named Clara, welcomed me with open arms. She cooked me meals. She asked about my day. She hugged me like I was her own daughter. For the first time in my life I felt like I was part of a family, a real family, a family that didn't make me feel like I had to earn my place. And then on a quiet Sunday afternoon there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find my mother standing on my doorstep. She looked older than I remembered. Thinner, paler, her eyes were red, her face was drawn. She looked like a woman who had been carrying a weight she couldn't put down. She looked like a woman who had finally realized what she had lost. "Rebecca," she said, "can I come in?" I stepped aside. She walked into my apartment and looked around. She saw the photographs on the wall, the books on the shelves, the life I had built without her. She saw the small, modest space that was my home, and for the first time I think she saw me. "Rebecca," she said, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking, I don't know how I could have done that to you. I was so caught up in my own life, my own problems, my own obsession with your sister. I forgot that you were the one who needed me. I forgot that you were the one who was hurting. I forgot that you were my daughter too." I looked at my mother, the woman who had raised me, the woman who had judged me, the woman who had hurt me, the woman who had made me feel invisible for 35 years. "Mom," I said, "I don't know what to say to you. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. Rebecca, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I want you to know that I've changed. I've been in therapy. I've been trying to understand why I did what I did. And I realized that I was so afraid of losing your sister that I forgot that I had already lost you. I was so focused on her that I couldn't see you. And I'm so sorry." I sat down on my couch. She sat across from me. We talked for hours. We talked about the past, about the future, about what we wanted from each other. She told me about her own childhood, about how her mother had favored her sister. She told me about the pressure she had felt to be perfect, to have the perfect family, to raise the perfect children. She told me about the guilt she carried, the guilt of failing me, the guilt of choosing my sister over and over again. "Mom," I said, "I can't promise that everything will be okay. I can't promise that I'll forget what you did. But I can try. I can try to forgive you. I can try to rebuild our relationship. But it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take a lot of work." "I know," she said. "I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." It has been a year since that conversation. A year of healing, a year of rebuilding, a year of learning to be a family again. My mother and I have dinner together once a month. It's not always easy. There are still awkward silences, uncomfortable moments, lingering wounds that haven't fully healed, but we're trying, we're both trying. She calls me now not just to ask for something but to ask how I'm doing. She sends me birthday cards on time. She remembers the little things. My sister and I are still working on our relationship. It's harder than I expected. The years of favoritism, of comparison, of feeling like I was never good enough, they don't disappear overnight. But we're talking. We're trying. We're learning to be sisters, not competitors. She apologized for the years of neglect, for the years of making me feel small. She told me she was jealous of my freedom, of my ability to live life on my own terms. I told her I was jealous of her confidence, of her ability to command a room. We were both surprised to learn that we had been jealous of each other. My father and I have grown closer. He calls me every Sunday. We talk about sports, about books, about life. He tells me he's proud of me. He tells me he loves me. He tells me he's sorry he didn't stand up for me sooner. I tell him it's okay. I tell him I understand. I tell him I love him too. I still think about that night often, the night I posted the screenshot in the family group chat. The night I finally spoke up. The night I stopped being invisible. The night I stopped waiting for my mother's approval. It was the night I finally started living my life for myself. It was the night I stopped being the second child and started being the woman I was always meant to be. I am Rebecca Hartley. I am 36 years old. I'm a social worker. I'm a partner. I'm a woman who finally learned that she doesn't need anyone's approval to be happy. I am a woman who finally learned that love is not a competition. I am a woman who finally learned that she is enough. I am a woman who finally learned that her worth is not determined by her mother's favor. My mother skipped my 35th birthday dinner. She said she had more important plans. She laughed when I confronted her, but I didn't let her laughter define me. I didn't let her dismissal break me. I stood up. I spoke up, and I finally stopped being invisible. That was the greatest gift I ever gave myself.